Well, in other news, the Prime Minister says that Britain will never leave the European Court of Human Rights as he pledges to fight the new storm facing Europe.
Well, it comes as the UK is hosting the European Political Community Summit today alongside European leaders.
Well, let's speak to the political commentator now, Peter Spencer. Peter, a lot of people have commented on the fact that Keir Starmer's rather lucky to, in his first week, have been able to jet off to Washington, D.C. and mingle with all of the NATO leaders. And in his second week, he's hosting 45 European leaders in Blenheim Palace. All of these summits gifted to him by the last administration.
Absolutely right. I mean, it's like bingo with knobs on as far as he's concerned. And the gathering today, the European gathering, is crucially important to him because one of his primary missions is to, as he put it, reset relations with Europe. And of course, it also fits in very neatly with his overall objective to boost economic growth. And that will be in large measure done with a bit of luck and following wind by dint of investment in the British economy, not just from UK, but also from across the continent. And so here is his golden opportunity at the birthplace of Winston Churchill to be ever so nice to loads of people and have loads of meetings that otherwise might have taken months to get sorted. So, yes, you're quite right. This is one of his luckiest of lucky days.
Yes, it's very convenient to have all of these leaders in the same place at the same time. You can have a quick word with all of them. You can have longer conversations with some of them. But, Peter, all this talk about illegal migration, this is clearly a key theme for so many of these European leaders that are present, not least our own Sir Keir Starmer. It's sounding as though there's some kind of proposal for a migrant exchange scheme of sorts. France take back some of our illegal boat migrants, and then we take some from the European Union. I mean, is this pie in the sky thinking? Is this something that could actually happen?
I think it is something that could happen, but it's not going to happen overnight, much like everything else that Keir Starmer has been talking about. Stuff takes time, and there'll be a great deal of negotiations and a great deal of complication along the way. But most certainly, it is a bit of an objective for Keir Starmer, having ditched the Rwanda scheme, to have something else up his sleeve. And some idea of returns deal. Also, I think probably more important is the cross-channel cooperation between British border folk and French border folk and also reaching out further across Europe, with the idea being to actually smash the gangs, to use his terminology, to not just stop boats when they arrive, that's an effect, but also to go for causes, which is people smuggling gangs who put themselves in a position to actually ensure that people, or most of them, sadly, manage to at least get across the channel. He wants to stop that if he possibly can.
Well, Peter Spencer, thank you so much for bringing us all of that. Really interesting stuff, and quite a lucky general our Prime Minister seems to be.
So far. Our political correspondent, Katherine Forster, is at the summit at Blenheim Palace for us. Katherine, has any progress been made? Any particularly interesting meetings of note?
Well, we will hear a little bit later at the press conference. Sir Keir Starmer is due to speak at 5 o'clock. But what a golden opportunity this is for him, along, of course, with the NATO summit last week. So we had the family photo. It's very noticeable. There's no parade of flags here. It's a rather more informal setting, getting together close on 50 European leaders, including some that don't necessarily get on particularly well. But what we have heard so far is that very clear reaffirming of support to Ukraine, no matter what. Obviously, looming is the possibility of a Trump presidency and what that could mean for Europe, in that, with J.D. Vance now as the vice presidential candidate, quite an isolationist, Europe will be having to think about how they may manage if the US pull back from support of Ukraine, but also on migration. Now, there has been a working group meeting in a very small room, I'm told, headed by Giorgia Meloni, the Italian PM. Of course, she had great relations with the former Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. But she's leading on this because, of course, illegal migration, 380,000 people entered the EU illegally last year, and Italy really on the front end of this. So Keir Starmer keen to build relations with her and other countries in that working group too, including like Denmark, really centre-left government, and others, Malta, Albania, etc. So Keir Starmer wants a security agreement. He wants access to fingerprinting information and much more to help crack down on these gangs. It's very clear that without Rwanda particularly, they do need, if they're going to crack down on these gangs, that has to be across European project, because these people are coming right across Europe to get here. Now, there's going to be quite an important meeting, a dinner tonight with President Macron. It does sound like there may be some further movement in the agreement that we currently have with France. We could hear an announcement on that a little bit later. We have heard talk potentially of some sort of exchange of migrants. Ultimately, Sir Keir Starmer would like a whole returns agreement with the EU. There is no prospect of that happening in the short term, not least because Ursula von der Leyen isn't even here. She's just been re-elected as leader of the European Commission, but that is a much, much bigger project. But there may be something with France, and we will find out in the coming hours.
Yes, another 5 years for Ursula von der Leyen, chief of the Commission. Thank you very much indeed, Katherine Forster from Blenheim Palace.